If you happen to have the misfortune of living in Dallas in 2020 or 2021, you likely had a dystopian view of the city. Massive riots, mild economic collapse, and a rapid increase of homeless encampments. It seemed for certain that the city was on a death spiral, and before we knew it, we'd be looking at another Los Angeles. Things were looking bleak. Fast forward to 2025, I found myself in Dallas on a trip, and driving around, I noticed a lot of the areas that previously had homeless encampments were now empty. My inner conspiracy theorist kicked in. What had happened? Did the rapture occur and the rest of us got left behind? Did the homeless industrial complex bust them out of the city? As a sanity check, I did some Googling, and sure enough, the city of Dallas had aggressively pursued a rapid permanent housing program over the last couple of years. The city had nearly solved veteran homelessness in its entirety and reduced general homelessness by 20% with an objective of reducing it by 50% by 2026. All of this just in the span of a couple of years. So, how did Dallas do it? How did Dallas solve homelessness? Mayor Eric Johnson talked about how the city could solve homelessness without raising taxes and by using existing resources. Now don't get too excited thinking that homelessness can be solved with a magic wand, because this thing was not cheap. Using a massive sum of money from the federal COVID stimulus package, they were able to provide permanent housing to the city's homeless people for approximately $25,000 per homeless person per year. Now, some would argue that this $25,000 a year cost actually offsets more than $40,000 a year in services, suggesting an annual savings of $15,000 a year per housed person. Now, mind you, these savings are purely hypothetical and remain to be seen. Now, I'm personally a little puzzled why it costs $25,000 a year per person, given that there's housing in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that's a lot cheaper than this. My suspicion is that it's a combination of bureaucratic overhead, bureaucratic inefficiency, and probably a handful of services that they're still provided while they're living in this permanent housing. Now, as I mentioned, this housing program was mainly paid for by the COVID stimulus package. The stimulus package was funded in large part by money printing. So while it's technically true Dallas did not raise any taxes for this, you still paid for programs like this across the country by way of inflation. Now mind you, money alone would not have solved this problem because small affordable housing is illegal in most cities, including Dallas. The city pursued a variety of housing deregulation, including simplified zoning and increasing the limit of how many units you can divide a building into. For example, previously, a 2-dwelling building was now allowed to be divided into an 8-dwelling building. On a final note, if you read the proposal from the Housing Projects Task Force, you'll see one of the things they recommended is that the government does not provide housing directly to the homeless individuals. Instead, they suggested the government should provide money to nonprofits and that the nonprofits should provide the housing. And I understand this is probably done for mostly logistical reasons. It certainly obscures the federal government's footprint on the community. Now, whether this lack of optics is good or bad, I'll let you make your own conclusions, just something to think about. And while it's fantastic that unhoused people are being housed, it's important to understand how inordinately wasteful Housing First programs can be when applied incorrectly. I want to highlight the potentially shady dealings that occur before these transactions. And it's also important for you to understand how you are paying for these programs. With that being said, methods of rehousing can always be improved.